If Allah already knew before a single moment of creation that Iblis would refuse, rebel, and spend the rest of eternity trying to drag humanity down with him, why create him at all? Not test him first and see. Already knew. That's the part most explanations skip past. And the actual answer sits right there in the Qur'an, spread across several different chapters if you piece it together properly. Before Adam was even created, the Qur'an describes Allah announcing his plan to the angels. I am placing a successor on the earth. The angels' response is almost startlingly direct. They ask, will you place therein one who causes corruption and sheds blood, while we glorify you with praise? It's a fair question. They'd apparently seen enough of what came before to expect it. Allah's answer wasn't a denial. It was, I know what you do not know. Then comes the moment this story actually turns on. Once Adam was formed, Allah commanded the angels, and, alongside them, a being named Iblis, to prostrate before him. Every angel did. Iblis alone refused. When asked directly why, his answer wasn't confusion or fear. It was an argument. I am better than him. You created me from fire, and him from clay. Not a denial of the command. A claim that the command itself was beneath him. Some early scholars point out that Iblis wasn't originally an angel at all, but from the jinn, mentioned separately in the Qur'an as a category of creation, with the same free will humans have, unlike angels who don't disobey by nature, which makes his refusal even more specifically a choice, not a glitch. Allah's response was immediate. Iblis was cast out, cursed, and told plainly that arrogance had no place in that position. And here's where most retellings skip the most revealing part. Iblis didn't ask for forgiveness. He asked for something else entirely. Time. Grant me respite until the day they are resurrected. And Allah granted it. Then Iblis used that respite to make a declaration, recorded directly in the Qur'an. He would sit and wait along humanity's path, coming at people from every direction, in front, behind, from the right, from the left, trying to pull as many as possible away from gratitude toward Allah. It reads less like a monstrous threat and more like a formal declaration of war, made in front of the very being he was declaring it against. But notice exactly what he asked for, and what he didn't get. He never asked for the power to force anyone. He asked only for time to try to persuade. That distinction carries the entire theological weight of this story. The Qur'an later has Iblis himself confirm it. In a scene set on the Day of Judgment, he tells his own followers, I had no authority over you except that I called you, and you responded to me. So do not blame me, blame yourselves. Even the being most associated with human downfall admits, on the record, that he never controlled anyone. He only invited. The choosing was always someone else's. Which brings us back to the actual question. Why create a being Allah already knew would do exactly this? Because the entire premise of human free will depends on there being a genuine pull in more than one direction. Obedience that's never actually tempted toward disobedience isn't really a choice. It's just the only option available, dressed up to look like virtue. Iblis's whispering is what makes resisting him mean something. Remove the tempter, and you don't get a purer form of goodness. You get a system with no real test running through it at all. The same conclusion the Qur'an reaches when it describes this entire life as a trial in the first place. There's a second lesson buried in the same story that's easy to miss, because it happens almost immediately afterward. Adam made a mistake too. He was deceived by Iblis and ate from the one tree he'd been told to avoid. But the difference between Adam's story and Iblis's story isn't the mistake itself. It's what happened right after. Adam turned back to Allah, admitted the error, and asked for forgiveness. And the Qur'an says Allah accepted his repentance. Iblis, faced with his own failure, never asked forgiveness once. He asked for time to keep going. 2 failures, in the same story, side by side. One followed by humility, the other by defiance. The Qur'an isn't really contrasting a human against a devil here. It's contrasting 2 ways of responding to being wrong. This raises a misconception worth clearing up directly, because it shows up constantly in everyday language. The devil made me do it isn't actually an Islamic position. It's closer to the opposite of one. The Qur'an has Iblis himself reject that excuse in advance, telling his followers not to blame him for choices they made. Whispering, suggestion, temptation. These are real and constant, but they stop at influence. They never reach control. A second misconception imagines Iblis as some kind of independent rival power to Allah, locked in an evenly matched cosmic struggle. He isn't. He's a created being operating entirely within limits Allah set and could revoke at any moment, including the very respite he's currently using. So what does a person actually do with a being like this in the picture? The Qur'an itself gives specific, practical language for this. An entire short chapter, along with its companion chapter, built entirely around seeking refuge from exactly this kind of harm. The Prophet ﷺ taught a habit as simple as saying a specific phrase before starting to recite the Qur'an, deliberately asking for protection before beginning. And in one especially striking narration, he described something most people never think about, that every human being is assigned a constant jinn companion for exactly this purpose, and that his own, by Allah's help, had submitted and only ever encouraged him toward good. Even the mechanism built to tempt, in other words, isn't beyond the reach of Allah's control. So why did Allah create Iblis, already knowing exactly how the story would go? Not because evil was necessary in itself, because a creation capable of real obedience needed a real alternative pulling in the other direction. Otherwise, obedience was never actually a choice to begin with. Iblis got exactly one thing: time and permission to invite. He never got control. And on the one day it will finally matter most, even he will stand up and say so himself. The question was never really about why Iblis exists. It's the same question underneath every temptation he's ever whispered. Who's actually making the choice, him or you?